Have you ever looked at someone and felt that quiet jolt in your chest? Like, this might be my person. Not the movie version, not fireworks, more like a steady internal click. And then almost immediately, you start bargaining with reality. You explain away how they half hear you when you're talking. You excuse the way they vanish when things get hard. You reframe inconsistency as they're busy, disrespect as they're stressed, emotional distance as they're independent. You tell yourself patience is maturity, even when what you're really practicing is self abandonment. Let's call it what it is. Love isn't supposed to feel like you're constantly negotiating a ceasefire. If your relationship feels like a weekly crisis summit, that's not romance. That's survival with a better outfit. And the most dangerous part, it can look like hope. It can sound like loyalty. It can wear the mask of, I'm just not giving up easily. But if you're always wondering whether they're the one, you're not experiencing devotion. You're experiencing doubt dressed up as destiny. The truth is, real love doesn't live in grand gestures. It lives in patterns, in the quiet choices someone makes when they're not trying to impress you, when there's no audience, no social media proof, no anniversary spotlight. It's in what they do when you're tired, when you're complicated, when you're not performing. You are not broken because you're still searching. You're alert, you're awake. And that awareness is the first sign you're ready to stop confusing comfort with calling. Tonight, I want to give you a sharper lens, not a fairy tale, a standard, 7 signs that someone is genuinely built to be your person, and not just a chapter you're trying to force into a lifelong story. And I'm speaking to men here in a direct way, because a lot of men have been taught to treat relationships like something you figure out later, like love should be simple if it's real, or like emotions are a foreign language you'll eventually pick up through exposure. But you don't build a life on guesses. You build it on clarity. So here are the 7 signs. Not cute traits, not good vibes. Signs that your nervous system can relax because the relationship is solid and your future isn't being built on sand. Sign 1. Silence feels safe, not awkward. Most people can talk. That's not rare. What's rare is someone who can be with you without needing to fill every quiet second with noise. A lot of relationships are addicted to stimulation, constant texting, background videos, forced jokes, fake energy. Not because it's fun, but because silence makes people face themselves. And many people do not like what they hear when the room gets quiet. But with the right person, stillness isn't empty. It's steady. You can sit in a car and not perform. You can lie in bed at 2 a.m. and not have to manufacture conversation. You can be quiet after a hard day, and they don't treat it like rejection. Don't punish you with distance. Don't demand entertainment. They understand that silence is sometimes the mind exhaling. This is not chemistry. Chemistry is easy. 2 people can have chemistry in a bar. Safety is different. Safety is what happens when you're not your best version and they don't flinch. And here's the truth most men don't hear enough. If you need to perform to keep someone close, you're not loved, you're being tolerated for your output. Real love lets you rest. Real love lets you be human. The right person doesn't use you to escape their emptiness. They've done enough work on themselves that they don't need you to be their distraction. They can sit with their own thoughts, which means they can sit with yours. Ask yourself, when the talking stops, do you feel calm or do you feel pressure? Because pressure is information. Sign 2. They protect your boundaries before you have to fight for them. Most people talk about loyalty like it's dramatic, like it's proving something in public, but real loyalty is quiet. It shows up in small decisions, in everyday moments, in how someone moves when there's no applause. A healthy partner doesn't wait until you're angry and exhausted to finally respect a boundary. They anticipate it because they pay attention. They don't say, "Why are you so sensitive?" when you need space. They don't keep pushing until you snap, then act like you're the problem. They understand that a boundary is not a challenge, it's a line that protects your peace. It might look like this: your boss tries to push you into another weekend of work, and your partner doesn't guilt you for choosing rest. They reinforce the idea that your life is more than your productivity. Your family dynamics get complicated, and they don't force you to pick sides or weaponize your relationships. They support you while respecting the people you love. Your friends try to pull you into a lifestyle you're outgrowing, and your partner doesn't mock you for changing. They back your evolution. And listen carefully: boundaries are not walls, they're architecture. They define what your life is built on. A partner who honors your boundaries is not nice. They are mature. They understand that the most intimate act isn't romance, it's protection. It's saying your nervous system matters, your limits matter, your no matters. If someone only respects your boundaries after a fight, they don't respect your boundaries. They respect consequences. The right person treats your limits like something sacred, not something to negotiate down. Sign 3. Your growth excites them more than your compliance. There are people who love you as long as you stay manageable, as long as you don't change too much, as long as you don't outgrow the role they assigned you, as long as your ambition doesn't make them face their insecurity. A lot of men know this feeling in a different form. The moment you try to level up, get healthier, build a business, go back to school, take your craft seriously, somebody starts acting strange. They call it being realistic. They call it not getting your hopes up. But what it often is underneath is fear. The right partner doesn't punish your progress. They don't get irritated when you become more disciplined. They don't joke about your goals until you feel embarrassed for having them. They don't try to shrink your world so they can feel bigger inside it. Instead, they lean in. They ask questions. They want to understand your vision. They become curious about what matters to you. Not because they want to compete, but because they want to be in it with you. And this goes both ways. A strong relationship is two people committed to becoming, not one person growing while the other person clings. Here's a clean test. Do you feel more capable around them, or do you feel like you have to dim yourself to keep the peace? Because if your success makes them cold, your success will always cost you something in that relationship. The right person makes you feel like you're unlocking a version of yourself you forgot was possible. Not because they complete you, but because they create the conditions where you can expand without paying an emotional tax. That's not support, that's elevation. Sign 4. They don't hide their past, and they don't let it drive the car. Everybody has history. Everybody has wounds. The difference is whether someone has done anything with them. A red flag isn't that someone has trauma. A red flag is when they use it as a license to keep hurting people. A red flag is when they treat their unresolved pain like your responsibility. The right person doesn't turn their past into a secret vault, and they don't turn it into a personality. They don't laugh off serious issues like they're just how I am. They don't say, "That's just my temper," like it's a birthright. They don't disappear emotionally and call it needing space when it's actually avoidance. They do the work. That can mean therapy, journaling, mentors, honest conversations, changing patterns, apologizing without excuses, repairing relationships when possible, learning how to regulate instead of explode or shut down. And when they get triggered, they can name it. They can say, "This hits something old in me." They can say, "I'm feeling insecure and I don't want to take it out on you." They can say, "I need a moment to calm down, then I want to talk." That is rare, and it matters, because many relationships don't end from one big betrayal. They end from years of unspoken pain turning into patterns: silent treatment, contempt, defensiveness, emotional withdrawal, blame. Healing isn't a performance, it's a daily practice. And when two people are willing to take responsibility for their inner world, you're not just compatible, you're building something exceptional. Ask yourself, when conflict happens, does this person move toward accountability or toward excuses? Sign 5. They choose you daily, especially when it's inconvenient. Anyone can love you when you're winning, when you're confident, when you're glowing, when life is easy and your energy is high. But life isn't a highlight reel. It's long, it's repetitive, it's unpredictable. It will test you with fatigue, disappointment, stress, family issues, money problems, health scares, grief, in seasons where you don't recognize yourself. Real love reveals itself when your light flickers. It looks like consistency. It looks like showing up. It looks like staying connected when it would be easier to detach. Not dramatic devotion, practical devotion. When you're sick, they don't act annoyed by your needs. When you're under pressure, they don't start competing with your stress. When you're quiet, they don't punish you for not being entertaining. When things get complicated, they don't vanish until it's convenient again. In a culture where people discard relationships, like outdated apps, endurance has become almost rebellious. But don't confuse endurance with suffering. Endurance doesn't mean tolerating disrespect. It means choosing commitment through normal hardship without turning hardship into a reason to abandon each other emotionally. And here's the part men especially need to hear. You should not have to earn basic care by being perfect. If love only exists when you're strong, that isn't love. That's a transaction. The right person chooses you when you're not trending, when you're not impressive, when you're just real. Sign 6. They don't try to fix you. They reflect you and they hold space. There's a myth that love is about rescuing each other, that you should be someone's project, that your partner should save you or you should heal them. That dynamic can feel intense, but it's usually unstable. Because once you're someone's project, you're no longer a person. You're a problem they're trying to solve, or a role they're trying to manage. Healthy partnership doesn't reduce you to an issue. It honors you as a full human. The right person doesn't dominate your emotions with solutions. When you say, "I don't know what I'm doing with my life," they don't jump into lecture mode. When you say, "I'm struggling," they don't make it about how hard it is for them to deal with you. When you're frustrated, they don't dismiss you with, "Calm down." They listen to understand, not to control. They can sit with your discomfort without needing to shut it down. They can be present without turning the moment into a performance of their wisdom. This is what emotional strength looks like, staying connected in the presence of intensity. And over time, something powerful happens. When you are consistently reflected instead of managed, you start to recognize yourself again. You start to trust your own instincts again. You start to feel grounded in who you are. Then they say something simple like, "I knew you had that in you." And it lands because they've been seeing you clearly, not just tolerating you. That's not manipulation. That's real sight. Sign 7. You feel less alone in the noise of the world. The final sign isn't perfection, it's partnership. It's the sense that life is loud, chaotic, unpredictable, and yet with them, You feel like you have a teammate, not someone who agrees with you on everything, not someone who never annoys you, not someone who never makes mistakes, but someone who speaks your language. You can be weird without being judged. You can be passionate without being mocked. You can care deeply without being called dramatic. You laugh at something that makes no sense to anyone else, and they're right there with you. You get emotional about something that seems small, and they understand it's not about the surface story. You have a strange idea at midnight, and instead of shutting you down, they ask, "Tell me more." And here's what that creates. You stop feeling like you're surviving the world alone. A lot of people are surrounded and still isolated. They're in relationships and still lonely because they don't feel known. They don't feel met. They feel managed, tolerated, or used. The right person makes you feel accompanied, like you can breathe at full lung capacity again. That deep resonance isn't luck. It isn't a trick. It's the product of emotional maturity, shared values, mutual respect, and consistent care. Now zoom out what the one actually is. People get distracted by surface compatibility. Same music, same hobbies, same aesthetic, same social circle. That stuff is nice. It's not the foundation. The foundation is alignment. Not we agree on everything, but we believe in the same kind of life. Do they believe peace is something you both protect or something they're entitled to disrupt? Do they see money as a tool for freedom or a trophy for status? Do they handle conflict like a mission to understand or a mission to win? Do they value integrity when it costs them or only when it's convenient? Do they want a life that matches your vision, or do you keep editing your vision to keep them comfortable? Because the quiet tragedy isn't a relationship that ends quickly. It's a relationship that lasts years while slowly erasing you. If you keep shrinking your dreams to fit someone's limitations, that's not compromise. That's self-deletion. The right person doesn't require you to abandon yourself to keep them. They build beside you, not behind you, not ahead of you, beside you. The conflict test. How do you fight? You've been sold the lie that the best couples never argue. That's not true. The best couples repair. The absence of conflict isn't peace. It's often avoidance. It's two people walking on eggshells, collecting resentment, calling it being chill. The real question isn't, do we fight? The real question is, when we fight, do we stay respectful? A healthy partner doesn't use your vulnerability as ammunition. They don't keep a scoreboard. They don't drag old mistakes into every new disagreement. They can say, "I hear you," without agreeing with everything. They can apologize without turning it into a speech. They can take a break without abandoning you emotionally. They can come back and finish the conversation. They don't confuse intensity with truth. They don't confuse control with strength. And if you've ever walked away from a hard conversation feeling clearer instead of crushed, that's a sign you're dealing with someone who has character, not just charm. Charm gets you dates. Character builds a life. The nervous system, truth. Your gut is data. A lot of men try to logic their way into love. They treat it like a business decision. Check the boxes. Evaluate the pros and cons. Make sure it makes sense. But your body keeps receipts. Your nervous system is constantly collecting information. Tone, facial microexpressions, consistency, emotional safety, the way someone responds when you're honest, the way they react when you need something, the way they handle disappointment. That's why you can feel calmer with one person after 3 dates than with another person after 3 years. And that's why you can date someone who looks perfect on paper and still feel uneasy inside. That unease is not weakness, it's intelligence. Peace is a signal. Confusion is a signal. Walking on eggshells is a signal. Feeling like you're always not quite safe is a signal. You don't have to demonize anyone to accept the truth. If your body is always bracing, your heart is paying a tax. So, what do you do with these 7 signs? Here's the standard: if you have to beg for consistency, it's not love. If you have to audition for basic care, it's not love. If you have to keep explaining why respect matters, it's not love. If you feel lonelier in the relationship than you did alone, it's not love. But if you feel calm, if your boundaries are honored, if your growth is welcomed, if accountability exists, if you're chosen consistently, if you're met, not managed, if you feel partnered against life, not alone inside it, then you're not getting lucky. You're experiencing what love is supposed to be: steady, respectful, real. And here's something important: you don't need all 7 signs perfectly, every day, forever. People are human. They forget things. They get stressed. They have bad weeks. What you're looking for is the pattern and the direction. Do they move toward you when things get hard? Do they repair when they mess up? Do they take responsibility, or do they blame and vanish? Do they learn, or do they repeat? Because effort in a great relationship isn't constant struggle. It's maintenance. It's care. It's attention. It's choosing to stay aligned. Real connection doesn't feel like dragging a boulder uphill. It feels like breathing with your chest open. One more thing: man to man. Be the standard too. A lot of men want the one without becoming the kind of man the one would feel safe with. So let this hit you clean. Can you sit in silence without needing to escape? Do you respect boundaries without taking them personally? Are you threatened by a woman's growth, or do you celebrate it? Do you own your past, or do you use it as an excuse? Do you choose daily, or only when you feel like it? Can you listen without trying to control the outcome? Do you add peace to someone's life, or do you bring it chaos and call it passion? Because the goal isn't just finding love, it's building a life where love can stay. Closing: you don't need a viral checklist to know what you feel. You need the courage to honor what your experience has already taught you. If you've felt even a few of these signs with someone, and they've never made you feel like a project, a burden, or an option, you're not wasting time. You're gaining clarity. And if you still feel unsure, that's not a problem. That might be the healthiest thing in you. It means you're done settling for confusion. It means your standards are waking up. The right person will not require you to convince them you're worth choosing. They'll choose you, in the small ways, in the unglamorous ways, in the hard seasons, in the quiet moments. No script, no performance, no constant tests, just a steady decision made again and again until it becomes a life. That's the difference between comfort and calling. And when it's real, you won't have to chase it. You'll be able to breathe in it.